people's voice on Salam Media.
Walaikum salam. Walaikum salam. Good afternoon. I can say good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to your platform.
You're most welcome. I'm sure Tauriq Jenkins will join us shortly. But Gcobani, it's our first conversation together. Let's start with you introducing yourself, your 30-second introduction, who you are, who you represent, what you're passionate about.
I'm Ndzongana, the chief leader of the Land Party. The Land Party was born out of land protest in Hermanas in 2018. Then it contested elections in 2019, national elections. Although we contested only 5 provinces, I was the presidential candidate of the Land Party in 2019. In 2020, the Land Party won its first ward in the Overstrand from the ANC. So I'm the leader, the president of the Land Party. Yeah, that's me. Born in King Williamstown, Timbaza, raised in Hermanas, Western Cape. Grew up in Western Cape, went to school in Western Cape, work in the Western Cape, live my life in Western Cape, having a house in Western Cape, business in Western Cape. Until then, life-threatening situations, my life became under threat from the DA and the AfriForum and many other stakeholders were against the resistance of the African people. Then I have to move to Joburg for my safety reasons.
Thank you, Gcobani, for that introduction. Now, in last week's show, we profiled Tauriq Jenkins and Suzette Little from the Good Party, where we talked about developments in the city of Cape Town, where the city had taken it upon itself to sell over 50 parcels of land. And of course, the people, the local and indigenous people, allege and stand on the right that this was done without a proper public participation process. So we are aware that there have been marches and demonstrations, as well as applications filed in court to interdict the auction of these lands in Cape Town, South Africa. What can you share with us, firstly, about the marches that took place, and then secondly, around the legal actions that took place last week?
Thank you very much. On the 12th of February, the Land Party mobilized, made a clarion call, calling all progressive movements, civil movements, religious leaders, faith-based organizations, and all native, indigenous, African, black and white, brown people in the Western Cape to come together, including the way forward thinking South Africans to come together and resist the land sale, which we describe it as District 6 Part 2, to get rid of the black, colored, and brown people out of the city of Cape Town and giving the land to the Zionists. So the Land Party called all these organizations to come together, communities, and indeed, I can say that they did come together, and we established what we call a united front to make sure that we form a resistant movement. And we decided to protest on the 24th to show our strength and to show our unhappiness. And that is why we marched to the city, to the Cape Town High Court, where we handed over the memorandum to the President Judge of the Western Cape. So it was a great success. The protest was a great success, united everyone in diversity, black, white, colored, all type of people together to say no for the sale of the indigenous and original black and colored people in the West, brown people in the Western Cape, to the Zionist terrorists who are running away from Israel and seek and building what you call a dove nest in the Western Cape.
Gcobani, let's come back to what happened in court. Was the application a success? What did the court find? I'm aware there's multiple applications. Can you just give us some clarity on the court process and where we are at now in terms of an outcome and the way forward?
Look, the court process on that particular day, it was a right-wing sponsored court process, which was planned to sabotage what we were planning to do. Definitely, the enemy will use the old tactics of buying one of your own within the so-called brown or indigenous or colored communities, to make sure that they send him to go, to pay his flights, to pay his accommodation, and to come and jeopardize the court process that we're busy with. Unfortunately, when we're busy doing our planning involving everyone, we were surprised on our follow-up meeting on Friday, where we find out an individual who was part and parcel of that of that meeting, where we wanted to launch what you call an agent, a court order. This individual already did that behind the United Front mandate. So at the end of the day, we discovered the same particular individual was sponsored by Freedom Front Plus. And when in court, very interestingly, this particular individual was not given the legal, the legal team. Even when we offered, the legal team was saying, can he step down so that they can take over? And he refused. But the Land Party did tell the members of the United Front that, look, we were aware of this and we anticipated this. It was not a surprise to us. And it happened as exactly as we told them. And all of them, they ended up agreeing that indeed they were played. So what was happening on Tuesday, where there was a court process, it was just a strategy to defocus us, to make sure that they want to discourage the people who are united against this land sales. But we still remain optimistic, and we are busy consulting some legal minds to see what will be the legal avenue for us to go forward with that particular case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gcobani. What we're going to do is take a quick ad break, and when we come back, I'd like to talk about the response and the position of the DA-led government in the Western Cape on this issue of the land.
Thank you.
Black seed, for indeed it is a cure for every disease except death. This Ramadan, honor that guidance. Tip Black Seed supports your blood sugar during fasting, boosts immunity, sustains your energy from suhoor to iftar. Available at leading pharmacies. Tip Black Seed, your golden drop every day.
Many of us take an iftar meal for granted, but not everyone is as fortunate. This Ramadan, the Islamic Dawah movement will provide meals to thousands of Muslims from disadvantaged areas, as it has been doing for over 20 years, but they need your help. A donation of 30 Rand provides an iftar meal for a fasting person. Become an IDM sponsor and earn Sadaqah Jariyah. Zakat, Fitra, Kafara, and Fidya contributions are all welcome. Call IDM on 031 304 6883 or visit idmsa.org to donate. IDM, taking Islam to as many hearts and homes as possible.
This Ramadan, give the gift of clean water with African Muslims Agency. With every water well or borehole you donate, your drop becomes a river, reconnecting communities to nourishment, education, dignity, and empowerment. Sponsor a water well for 16,500 Rand in Africa, or a borehole for 65,000 Rand in Afghanistan or Africa. Quench the thirst, reconnect the soul with Africa Muslims Agency.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Elite Basmati, available throughout the Middle East, and now for the very first time exclusive to South Africa, brought to you by Murchison Spice, Pietermaritzburg's most famous specialty store. Elite Basmati, available in aromatic white and golden cellar, is packaged in a world-class facility in India and is filled with wholesome goodness for your well-being. Elite Basmati rice by Murchison Spice. For trade inquiries, contact Mohammed on 033 387 2121. Murchison Spice.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this.
Welcome back to the People's Voice on Salam Media with Shabnam Palesa Mohammed, Sunday, the 1st of March, 2026. And we're talking about very important topics on today's show. Firstly, the sale of land and properties in Cape Town, which is posing a threat to local and indigenous communities. And secondly, we'll be talking to Suzanne Harb, who is a wellness counselor on the subject of healing from the trauma of genocide. The two guests in the first segment of our show, Gcobani Ndzongana from the Land Party. We've just been engaging in conversation with him. And let's draw to the table Tauriq Jenkins, convener of Save Our Sacred Lands. Tauriq, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the People's Voice. Not sure Tauriq can hear us. Gcobani, we might need to just reach out to him there to figure out if there's a technical issue. Maybe let's go back to Gcobani.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome, Tauriq Jenkins from Save Our Sacred Lands. Tauriq, your very brief 20-second introduction, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Tauriq Jenkins. I'm the convener of Save Our Sacred Lands.
Thank you very much. And of course, you're also helping to drive a united front against the sale of land in Cape Town, the Western Cape. We've just been talking to Gcobani Ndzongana from the Land Party, and he's been sharing his perspective on what happened last week and where the court process is in terms of the applications that have been filed. So, Tauriq, let's ask you about your thoughts on the position of the DA-led government in the Western Cape on the subject of these land sales or land alienation, as those who are resisting it call it. Of course, this has been going on for a number of decades, if not centuries, of course. But what is your perspective on what the DA-led government is now saying? What are the statements that they are putting out, and what is your response to their position?
As you've indicated already, the city of Cape Town, the DA-led city of Cape Town, has been auctioning off large parcels of land that belongs to the public for a very long time now. And what we've seen in terms of the 50-plus parcels of land totaling about 282,000 square meters of property is basically a part of an ongoing onslaught insofar as how a city reframes itself as a custodian of land towards a broker of land. And I think what we're seeing is pretty much just an extension of the application of Roman Dutch law as it was first applied in 1657 on the embankments of the Leesbeek River, which was ostensibly there just to justify the theft of indigenous land theft, the theft of land that was within the hands and custodianship of the San and Khoi in the context of Cape Town in the Western Cape, where the first colonial encounters occurred. And so through the various epochs of colonial times, in terms of the Dutch, the English, and then under the National Party and the formal augmentation of apartheid, we are simply seeing an extension of that. And I think the selling of the Good Hope Center in many ways is that straw that is breaking the camel's back of an intergenerational accumulated sense of frustration and trauma. And now as it lies out in the context of Cape Town, where in the Cape Flats there's a bloodbath to the point where the president has had to issue orders for the South African Defence Force to intervene, where we have an extraordinary problem of a housing crisis, and with poverty, criminality, and the structural fault lines of apartheid spatial planning are really flaring in ways that are that are unprecedented. And when we are sitting in a city where the mayor himself wants to declare that the term apartheid spatial planning is somehow some woke piece of propaganda, and where some of the political heads of the DA will say that genocide is too big a word to make comment on, in the context of a political party that has been sending delegates to Israel on paid trips to return and reproduce particular forms of hasbara, of genocide and apartheid denial. All these things combined have created a particular kind of combustion whereby we have a situation where there's a united front that has emerged from political parties, from communities across the board, San and Khoi and other traditional and indigenous councils that have decided to put differences aside in order to have one common objective, which is to address this issue of alienation of public land in the manner around which it's been done by the city of Cape Town. And this is, where we are sitting. So I think it's very important that we continue to draw a magnifying lens on what has been an ongoing occurrence of administrative injustice, insofar as how a city and a province is taking the only aspect of what being a citizen of this country has, insofar as the hopes and the aspirations of restorative justice, restitution, reparations, and dignity, which is land, the central question of land. And when land in this way is going through a tick box exercise, and the manner around which that tick box exercise is being exercised is so entirely narrow and anemic, insofar as how it corresponds to just basic principles of meaningful consultation and so on. But when you
But
take
if
it,
I can come in,
yes.
if I can come in at that point, just to ask this question, as we traversed in our previous interview with you and Suzette Little from the Good Party, we talked about what seems to be an emerging pattern of factors driving locals and indigenous out of Cape Town, from the gang violence to the sale of land to this apartheid wall, essentially, that's being built to separate the wealthy from the rest. Does the city of Cape Town have the funds to house the 400,000 people who are on a waiting list for homes? Or is it possible that the sale of these 50 plus parcels of land are going to fund that very same 120 million rand wall that they intend to build in Cape Town?
We have this situation where, close to 500,000 people are on the waiting list. And what's important is to understand that each of these people, as was indicated by Councillor Little in the last interview, have access to funds, of up to 200,000 in terms of, the mandate of these particular programs. Which means that if you sell a property, for example, in Mitchell's Plain for 150,000 rand, why could any of those on the waiting list be designated as possible buyers? Because they would have been able to take out loans that are due to them, and also in terms of these monies that are designated for them when they move into to houses and so on. And so, again, it's not just an alienation of public land, but it's an alienation of the citizenry insofar as our access to these resources. And in terms of not just the current climate, not just the realities of the ground, but in terms of the city's duty, in as far as how it has to be responsive, in terms of the constitutional mandate of dealing with apartheid spatial planning redress. The tone deafness and the attitude around which this auction has taken place is absolutely despicable. What kind of a city does one live in when it's very clear that there is an uproar of deep concern coming from civil society, coming from the city, to the point where the poorest and most disenfranchised communities have taken it upon themselves to file high court interdicts because this is so important, not just to the San and Khoi communities and to indigenous traditional councils, but to everybody in South Africa. Is this not enough of an indication for a city that supposedly works for us, for a city that supposedly has an ear and empathy in terms of wanting to understand and wanting to listen to what the message has been? And this kind of attitude and response is really indicative of an apartheid syndrome, where, you know, unless it is coming out of a particular, you know, legal position, then, you know, it is just self-deceived that what they're doing is absolutely fine. And let's take an example. Let's take the Good Hope Center. This is a heritage site. This is an iconic landscape that belongs to the living memory of the people of the city, especially to those who were previously disadvantaged during apartheid, and in terms of, you know, where we are at now. Now, the question is, what kind of meaningful engagement are we talking about? What kind of heritage assessments have been done? And also, you know, to what extent was there real engagement in as far as, you know, what this place would mean for the adjacent communities? And I can tell you now, 100% with surety, that there's a family in Earl Street in District 6 that is being evicted. That family has intergenerationally been in a block of houses which used to belong to the church, was sold over to a private developer. And when it was sold over to that private developer, they did not get an opportunity to purchase it for themselves. And now, for the sake of the whims of this developer who wants to take these sets of cottages and reconstruct them and build on top of it in order to create a massive student accommodation building, means that we have what is the last living remnants of the survivors of apartheid, the survivors of the forced removals in District 6. And District 6 is, of course, you know, in many ways, the centrifuge, symbolically, of what apartheid forced removals means to all of us, where communities were fanned out into the Cape Flats, and with brutal historic irony, there were aspects and places of meaning that were in District 6 were then, you know, that then were given the names of these areas, you know, like Lavender Hill and so on. And when those families look just across their windows and will see an entity like the Good Hope Center and other portions of land which are within ear and eye shot of the space that they are currently being evicted, the kind of living injustice that is present is, you know, it's quite indescribable, but the feeling is there, and this is the kind of, you know, brutal historical irony around which the city is beginning to operating, and demonstrates the extent to which this is a completely divided city, that the city is a tale of two cities. Yeah.
The tale of two cities. We've got about 5 minutes to go. Let's bring Gcobani and Ndzongana back into conversation. Olani, if we can have a side-by-side screen there, that would be very helpful. So we have both our guests with us. I'm sure Gcobani is still here. If you can bring him up on screen, Olani. Not sure what's happening in the background there, but probably Olani is trying to fix it. We have a couple of minutes left, and well, if we can't get him on screen, let's continue with you, Tauriq, to ask what is the plan of action. Oh, well, here's Gcobani. Welcome back. Let's maximize our last 5 minutes together. Gcobani, what is the plan of action that the United Front is focusing on? Is it a multi-pronged strategy that includes education, advocacy, legal action, economic tactics, and perhaps even arts and culture?
Yeah, look, we are going to fight this battle in two fronts, on the street, also in court. So that is the way forward. We are mobilizing communities, conscientizing them, telling them, so that they understand. We must plant this in their head, because people are ignorant. They are there in township, in the Cape Flats, drinking, enjoying themselves, busy with entertainment. They don't understand how detrimental this sales of pockets of land is going to affect them at a later stage. So we are busy mobilizing communities. In due course, people will see the results of that.
Thank you very much. And I wonder, Xolani, if it's possible to bring Tauriq up on the same screen. You know, the threads that have been drawn by various activists on this land front to Zionism, to the state of Israel and its agenda of expansion, not just in the so-called Middle East, but also extending into South Africa via the Western Cape, are really very concerning. Do you see this as a clear and present threat to South Africa's peace and sovereignty? Very briefly, because we still want to talk about Iran. 60 seconds. Go ahead, Tauriq. Not hearing from Tauriq. Let's bring Gcobani back.
Hi,
Go ahead, Gcobani.
yeah, look, my sister. From our side, we are very clear that it's said that we are being caught sleeping. South African government is sleeping. ANC, when they took over in power in 1994, they neglected the military. They never prioritized the military. They didn't understand the importance of the military. I mean, if you remember, not long ago, former President Jacob Zuma signed a non-proliferation treaty, you know, with Obama in New York, preventing South Africa to acquire nuclear weapons in the near future. You know, that is one of the most, sell-out position that we ever experience in this country. That is one of the most treasonous action that was done by the president of this country. I mean, today South Africa is a lame duck. We are vulnerable because the ANC had this in their mind that we don't have enemies. Now they can see for themselves that indeed our enemies in 1994, you know, they decided to give us a break and monitor us and plan. After that, they knew that at a later stage they have to come back and take what belongs to us. And we've seen what they've done in Iran and other parts of the world, using minorities against the legitimate democratic elected majority governments. And I mean, and even then you can see that they've succeeded in South Africa because they've got a very strong allies like AfriForum, Solidarity, Freedom Front Plus, and Jewish Board of the South African Jewish Board, and many other entities that are pro-United States and pro-Zionist. So it's said that in this day and age, South Africans find themselves at the back foot where they cannot be able to defend their sovereignty. And now the lives and the safety of South Africans is exposed because of weak and inept leadership.
Thank you, Ndzongana, the leader of the Land Party. Tauriq Jenkins, your perspective on the attack on Iran, where over 100 schoolgirls were killed. Of course, there's huge tragedy and loss in the country. But of course, imperialism making it very clear that nobody is safe, whether it is Iran, any of the countries in the global south, or even South Africa. Your perspective?
Well, the attack on Iran is a case of Israeli aggression that is being used via the United States, and I think it's best that the United States just moves out of that and takes the mature line of not being Israel's proxy in terms of its objectives in wanting to have full domination of the area, so it can fulfill its expansionist policies around Lebanon's realm and Zionism. With regards to the extent to which we are vulnerable, we have our ICJ case, which we are very firm on, but there are a number of things that need to be looked at urgently. The first thing is this trope about the Afrikaner white genocide myth. and the extent to which, if that is not, if that is left unchecked, that will indeed become a growing Trojan horse, which will allow for all kinds of interference. You know, we recall how the false narrative of weapons of mass destruction, the big lie in Iraq. There is a big lie at the moment at this stage, which is we are committing genocide against white people. And I think that we must do everything we possibly can, by all means necessary, to ensure that that trope and that narrative is absolutely dealt with and put to bed. And I think, you know, the same way in terms of how these particular narratives are endangering this country, because it is giving room for very right-wing apartheid, fascist and supremacists to come forward into the public realm, to the point where apartheid and white supremacy is being renormalized. And so this apartheid creep into the center is really something that we have to, as civil society, as indigenous communities, as citizens, and all who are who are in this country, do everything that we can to push back against this this apartheid creep. And if you can take a look at, yeah.
Thank you very much, Tauriq Jenkins, Save Our Sacred Lands convener there, and Gcobani Ndzongana, the leader of the Land Party. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll certainly need to have further conversations together. And we're moving on now to our next segment, which is Suzan Harb, who is a wellness counselor and an expert in trauma and grief. And we'll be talking about how do we heal from the trauma of genocide. Stay locked into Salam Media's YouTube channel and People's Voice with Shabnam Palesa Mohammed.